Let's take a few moments to bring you more on that top story. The Prime Minister meeting with the Chinese President on a 5-day visit to the region. Keir Starmer said the talks with President Xi Jinping were constructive and that the relationship is in a good place. Let's discuss that further with Evie Aspinall, who's Director of the British Foreign Policy Group think tank. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
What's your initial assessment of the dialogue that's come out of these meetings so far?
I mean, so far it's been very kind of cordial. You're seeing quite significant warmth from both sides. Xi Jinping has, he's slighted the last government and said, relationships were really bad then, but this is a moment of reset. And that's what Starmer's really gone for. He wants to go there, rebuild relationships with this critical potential partner and big economic power, and particularly to drive economic growth in the UK. And that's the top priority for Starmer. He wants to go there, get some economic deals and come back to the UK and show that it will improve the growth here and improve the cost of living.
But at the same time, he's also got to address the rights and freedoms in Hong Kong, Jimmy Lai, Uyghur Muslims who have been detained in China. He's got to address the fears of security threats, of spying, of the Chinese mega embassy. It's not all sweetness and kisses, is it?
No. Underlying all this niceness is definitely a whole layer of complexity. Number one, for the UK, is many of our security concerns around espionage and the big questions around the so-called super embassy has been a top conversation. We've also got big concerns about human rights. Jimmy Lai, who is a UK citizen, is a top concern for the UK. Starmer will have raised these issues. They'll be mentioned in his meetings with Xi Jinping, but realistically, he's not there to go and fight and campaign for human rights. He's there to try and drive up the economy, and so these things will be raised. How deeply they will impact anything is probably not very high.
And it's really interesting looking at the perspectives from both sides. You look at British media, we've all got live blogs running, we've got photo analysis, we've got people on to talk about it. We're kind of looking at this in big terms. You go onto all of the Chinese media outlets and it's like, oh, this guy called Keir's popped by for a visit, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And it shows maybe what one might see as the power disparity between the two nations.
I mean, absolutely. You've got to remember, for the UK, China is a major trading partner. It's critical to our economy. That's not the same for China. And actually, for China, this isn't much about the symbolism here. And what we should remember is that the UK has a very distinct position, being so close to both the US and the EU, and that's a symbolic kind of benefit to China. Of Starmer going over there, getting the images of him in China is really good for showing him legitimacy on the world stage, showing other countries it's okay to move closer to China. That's what he really wants from this, but the economy particularly, not the top priority. And, he's already had a number of others coming. Macron was there the other day, Carney was there the other day, and a number of others are lined up in the coming weeks and months. So this isn't a big deal for China in the same way, but it is a symbolic moment for them.
Yeah, I think the South Korean leader, the Finnish leader, Chancellor Merz of Germany is going next month. And with that in mind, how does the UK try and stand out from that crowd?
I think, number one, and while we're going for the economy, the number one thing is that positioning between the US and the EU. For us, we have a unique position because whilst Trump obviously it's not been a smooth relationship with Starmer, but it's been better than it has been for other European nations, and the kind of longevity of that special relationship does give us a unique position, which looks really good. And I think for Xi Jinping, that is. So I think for him, he'll want to use that, and that's why we're seeing a lot of this soft power going on. There's a lot of taking him to important sites in China. The visuals of this are as important as what's happening underneath.
You mentioned Mark Carney. He goes and visits China. They're not going to have a trade deal, but there's reduction in tariffs for EVs, for example, electric vehicles, and other kind of beneficial trading arrangements. Donald Trump responds to that by saying, right, I'm going to slap 100% tariffs on Canada. Obviously, there's a shared border there. There's a shared relationship with the United Kingdom. Is there any risk of kind of retaliation from the president if we get too close to China?
I mean, absolutely. And I think this is one of the kind of fine lines Starmer has to walk at the moment. He wants to come back with something to show to the UK public, but he doesn't want anything too showy. He doesn't want to go and make a big statement of we're now best friends with China because of how that will be received in the US. I think this is particularly interesting, given that Trump, whilst, he's always been hawkish on China, he's been softer in this presidency than he was in his first term. We've seen a shift in his language and, they've had a trade truce, actually, between the US and China. But what he is very nervous about is anyone in his, the Western sphere of influence moving towards China, because he thinks that will go against his interests, both, economically and in terms of security. So there is a real risk that he will lash out. And so we have to be very careful to say, this is an important reset, but actually, we've not come up with a big new trade deal that we wouldn't do with the United States. that might not be enough. You know, it's Trump. He's very unpredictable. He may still come out and get very frustrated, but I think Starmer's trying to walk that line very carefully.
Evie, really good stuff. Good to have you with us.